Hello everyone, it's Unknown Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how I set up my materials. So we are going to practice using this model of the old Enterprise, and here you can see how we will hopefully get it to look in the end. As you can see, it has very nice materials, reflections, and the warp nacelles, they even spin, so I'm not sure if you can see it with YouTube's compression, but yeah, you might see them spin. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than just having a static color. Anyways, so the reason I'm doing this tutorial, and yes, I have not forgotten the Earth tutorial, I'm still going to do that, is because as you might have noticed, if you try to follow along with my Star Trek tutorials with the USS Discovery, that if you download the model from the link, it's not exactly the same as the model I use. And that's because if I download a model from the internet, usually the first thing I do is I redo the materials. So I chose the Enterprise model for this tutorial because it is very easy to do materials on it because it has no textures. Of course, the link will be provided. And so if you download the file, so you go import here, and then you choose FBX. I think it comes to FBX. So Blender, and I have it in this folder. And import FBX. It's gonna take some time. It has a lot of vertices, so maybe if your computer is fairly low end, it might not work, but yeah. So now here it is. That's what you get when you download the model. So let's rotate it around, pressing R, X, and then 90 or minus 90 to negate it. And so, perfect. We got the Enterprise model. So usually, if you don't plan to do anything else with the mesh, it's easier to just like select the saucer maybe, and then Alt Z to go into X-ray mode, select everything, and just press Control J, and that joins it all into a single object. And then you have all those empties, which, yeah, I'm not sure which is the original model. It's called Hull or what now? I'm a bit confused right now. Yeah, that's the one. Basically everything except this object you can just press Alt P to clear parent. Now it's huge, but that's fine. And now we can literally select everything else except this object, of course. So we select everything here, and we can delete it. We don't need it. I guess that's some of the stuff that helped him model the Enterprise, and also here apparently a window is there as well. Interesting. What's this? This belongs to the model. This doesn't. Let's just join it as well. Never really noticed, to be honest. But well, now I guess it's joined. And impulse drive is also just an empty. Yeah, it's all centered in the center. You can just delete everything that's in the center. And now, so we got a few objects left. I guess we can just all select them and just, I think this is the, now you just Control J to join, and boom, we have, let's rename it Enterprise. So now that's the first step, obviously, and now we can deactivate X-ray mode again with Alt Z. And let's first center the model. So let's go set origin, and this time we want geometry to origin because origin is already at the center, which we want. And also it's a bit huge. I mean, if it bothers you, you can scale it down. Don't need to. I'm not going to bother right now. As you can see, we have a lot of materials already set up, and as you can see, it has no texture. So everything is done using vertices, which is very nice because we basically have infinite resolution. You can go really close, but it also is not really the best for performance. So you can see a lot of vertices in here. You could probably throw how's it called, a decimate modifier on, or maybe bake to textures first, but usually it just gives better results. So first things first, let's switch to Eevee because that's the only way we can really see what our materials are doing. And what I like to do first is just I've disabled ambient occlusion. It's already disabled. Let's add a light. Area lights are my favorites, so scale them up. Yeah, that's one reason why you might want to scale down the enterprise. Yeah, let me scale down to 1/10. So S.1, and now it's so fucking huge. So now S.1 again. Now it is baby sized. Yeah, that's fine. Good. So now it's I mean, now it's back to small size, so it's easier to work with. Let's add an area light, and yeah, exactly. Let's move it around a bit, like here. Scale it up. Increase the power to like 1 kilowatt or something. Wonderful. Now let's just duplicate it. Sign on from the other side. Maybe 500 watts. Now we got lighting. Let's make it go down a bit more. And yeah, good. So now we got our lights, and the enterprise is lighted, but it doesn't look perfect. Also, like all the stuff that should be glowing is not glowing. So now let's go through the materials. So we have hull gray. So hull gray is basically a normal hull. There are a few exceptions. So as you can see, metallic is maximum, which is good because it's obviously metal. But for me at least, I like having a bit like lower roughness, so it's more shiny, more metallic. I just personally like it more. You can make it how you want, really. That's the purpose of the tutorial, just showing you how I work through it, and so you can prepare your own models to look better. Right, so I think first of all we're done here. Let's configure the lit windows. So these are the lit windows, obviously, and for them we want emission. So you can either replace the shader, which would probably help performance, to be honest. So let me just do that. Let me first add the emission shader so I can copy the color. So I go here, you can go the color picker and pick the color. Delete the shader, nobody needs it, and connect it to surface. Set the strength something like 10 or something. Maybe reduce the saturation so it's not as yellow. And now, first of all, let me turn down the world brightness. You can see they glow. That's how it's supposed to be, right? So you can increase the strength more if you want. Just gonna leave it like that. And done. So the windows are done. Now let's go on. So you can see this dish. It's supposed to be really metallic because it's copper, obviously. So let's go. And I think you can just go through the materials. How I tested, yeah, I'm not quite sure which material it is. I think it's copper. Yeah, well, it's copper. So I want it to be really metallic and have a low roughness. So you can see it's the correct material indeed. And at this point, you might also want to like up the quality on your screen-based reflections if you feel like, you need it. I don't really see a big difference, to be honest. Maybe tweak the thickness to 0.1 meters. But to be honest, it looks fine. Good. So now we got our shiny stuff here, which is what we want. And the rest you don't really have to tweak. It kind of depends on your taste as well. Good. So next, you can see all those lights, and we want to do next. So we have green bits and red bits. Red bits are obviously the red lights, and green bits are the green lights. So let's do the same thing. Emission shader. Let's copy the color because it's already pretty good, and let's delete the principled BSDF. Plug it into surface, and now we go maybe 15, so it's a bit brighter. And yeah, you got your emission. Same thing for the green ones, green bits. Let's Shift A, emission, and plug, just connect the colors. And connect the surface. Done. So good. Set 15. See, also the green bits are now glowing, even here in the back. Also, the yellow bits, orange bits. I'm not sure if that's actually also what you want. That's a great way to test, by the way, how you want your materials to look. If you just go here to emission, you set it to like maximum, and I mean, now you can already see that it's the correctly, but you can also maybe put like the saturation to maximum, make it full red, and then increase it to like 500. So then if you look around, you can easily see like where the material is applied. So in this case, orange bits is applied here and on the other side. So since this part is really small, I'm not going to bother to separate them, but technically you could like go into edit mode and into edit mode and just assign a different material to them. I'm not going to bother doing that right now because you're not going to see it in the end anyway. For the warp nacelles, it's a bit more complex, the color, because we want to make it spin, obviously. So first of all, let's delete the principal BSDF. So to make it spin, first of all, we need the texture coordinate because we need to kind of make a gradient. So you get the generated coordinates and you get a gradient texture. And at that point, you might as well get the mapping node. I don't even think you need it. So to generated, plug it in. You can Control Shift to preview. And in this case, let's get a separate XYZ node. RGB and stuff, they all do the same thing, just different names. So now you can kind of cycle through and see, and you can see which coordinates do what. Again, at this point, you can't really see, so maybe, let's add a mapping node. And now you can kind of scale the vector and see how it's going. So I've already tested this, so I know it's actually the Y direction we need. And now let's get a color ramp plot, because obviously we have this linear color, and that's maybe make it easier to see it. So you can see where it clamps. So here you can see bam. So okay, so actually X is not what we need. So now you can test which coordinates what you need. So X coordinate, we don't need it. Y coordinate, maybe. Z coordinate, you gotta tweak around so you can see what it does. But yeah, at some point you will see. Now Z is not what we need. So let's try Y, and you can see Y is what we need. We have gradient here. So now what I would suggest is using two different color ramps. So first color ramp is basically just to define where it ends and starts. So you can have like easy going when you start adding a second color ramp node, because you can see they're getting pretty cramped here. Good. So now we got this. Now let's get a second color ramp node. Just Shift D to duplicate. And first of all, there's nothing, but now you can kind of set the colors that you want on the outside and on the inside, or on different parts of the nacelle. So I think it's more like, I think it's kind of yellowish on the inside and like dark orange kind of look on the outside, like this maybe. A bit darker. I'm not so sure. Maybe a bit more green, less green. I know. So now let's get an emission shader. Emission. Plug it into color. Plug into color and connect that one to the material output. Now crank the emission up. Now here you can play around with the values. So again, you have to tweak this how you want. Also, you can choose values higher than 1, by the way. So yeah. So I'm not going to take too much time doing this right now. You can also tweak with the color ramp values. When do you want it to start and to end? So for example, maybe you want it to start a bit earlier, later, whatever. So I think this looks okay. Again, you can take more time tweaking it if you want. Also, the light is a bit too bright for me, so let me make it 500 watts as well. Good, so now we got this. So how we get the spinning stuff? The spinning stuff is how I usually desert it is I look at the different texture coordinates. So you can press Control Shift again and click. So now you can see this is generated, this is normal, doesn't really help. UV, object is basically position, doesn't really help. Camera is relative to camera, so it doesn't help nothing. Window, same thing. Reflection, also relative to camera, you don't want to be relative to the camera. So in this case, I went for UV. You could probably use normal as well, but really that's your choice. I go for UV because I've already tried. So now let's get a vector math node, or actually we get a vector rotate node. A vector rotate, because you can imagine we rotate the UV, like you can already see it's kind of a gradient, you know, and we rotate it around. So yeah, you gotta, this is not the way. I think, yeah, you gotta find the right angle, although I think the Z angle is the correct one indeed. So yeah, let's 0, and now let's get another separate XYZ. So Shift D to copy, and now you can see which component we want. We want the Y component, that's the spiral. And now comes the cool part. Now again, if we rotate, it kind of, that doesn't really rotate, but it's good enough. I've tried all axes. There's actually nothing I can do to rotate the entire thing, which is kind of sad, but okay. This approximation does enough. Now we have basically an array of continuous values, which is very practical for many purposes, not for the purpose we want, because we don't want just one streak that just suddenly stops. We want multiple lines. So the best way to do that, to convert a linear propagation to something periodic, is by using the sine function. So let's get a math node, and not add, but sine. So now we get, not here, sine, perfect. Now you can see it looks very similar here and here. But that's just because it goes from value 0 to 1, and that's not even a full revolution. So now we get to use another math node, math, and we're going to multiply. So we're going to increase the value by a lot, and then now you're going to see, we see different lines emerge. Exactly what we want. And if we rotate this now, you can see it kind of rotates, it swivels around. It's a bit weird, but gets the job done. So yeah, that's how you do the lines. Now we gotta have some way to combine it. So obviously we're going to want to combine this with this, so we can kind of get a mix between the two. The easiest way would just be to go multiply. Math node, obviously. Math, and plug the color into the value here. Other value. Now you can see we got the streaks, and not add, multiply. Now you can see we kind of got the pattern, but you're going to see if we plug this into the factor now and get the emission, it's kind of too much. So what we have to do, well, we are going to use a map range node, because then we can we can map the 0, 1 range to something else, something that's closer to 0, so it's closer to 1, so it will not be as strong. So let's get a map range, plug it in here, and now we have from min, from max, to min, to max. So we want the minimum value to be maybe 0.9, and maybe that's a bit too much. We'll make it 0.8 or 0.5. Now you can see it's just half as strong, and you can tweak it how you want. You can also kind of tweak the from min result to like clamp it off. No, only from the other range, from the other side. You can clamp it off and make the lines like a bit less thick, although yeah, in this case doesn't really do much. So yeah, you can make the lines a bit less thick, or especially maybe more sharp. But I am fine with like 0.75, and I am just going to go to 0.6, I think. And then if we multiply it, you're going to see we have the lines, but they're not too annoying, you know, they're just there. And if we animate the rotation here, you can see they kind of rotate, which is what we're going for. Good. So now, how do we make it rotate? We don't want to animate keyframes and everything. So that's actually pretty easy. We just click here and add a driver here. And then we don't need this. We don't need anything actually. Let's remove the expression totally. And now we have this purple thing. We can write frame, and then it inserts the frame number here. And if we now press play, you're going to see it's rotating, but maybe a bit too fast. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the frame number by something else, like 0.05. It's going to be 200 times slower. And now you can see rotating slower. You can tweak this how you want, but now we have rotating warp nacelles. Good. We're almost done. There's not much more to do, except maybe check on the other materials. So for me personally, I like the stuff a bit more saturated. So you can see this red. For me, I'd like it to be a bit more saturated. So I'll just go into color here and just increase the saturation a bit, you know? Just so it looks a bit better. A bit nicer. Good. So the launch bay, everything's fine. Exactly. Now one thing is missing. Almost forgot. Is if you look at the bridge. Yeah, it's not glowing. So we have this material group already assigned called lights, and lights has to glow obviously since it's a light. So now let's get our emission shader again. Yeah, lights had no color, so I could comfortably delete it and plug it into surface. And now you can see, yes, we got our glowing bridge. I think 20 is fine. So now you're basically done. You can also make it lower by 15. But now you got all your lights glowing, and if you were using cycles, they would actually like emit light. And EV, that's of course not the case, except if you're using SSGI, which I don't have. But yeah, that's basically how to do it. And now you have a model which is much better to work with, and which you can now save in your Blender file and put it in some folder. And the next time you need it, you can just append it from that Blender file, and you have all the materials set up to suit your needs. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe. And also, if you're excited for the upcoming Earth atmosphere tutorial I'm going to do, yes, you could also subscribe. And until the next video, which will hopefully be soon enough, have a nice day. Bye.